national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे
I request all to please be quiet and maintain the decorum. Please settle down fast. On behalf of Delhi Technological University, I, Loveleen Gupta, extend a warm welcome to the distinguished dignitaries of the day, Mr. Sanjay Sehgal, Chairman and CEO of MSIS Group, our venture and angel investor, and TED Speaker of the Day, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Prateek Sharma, Professor S. Indu, Faculty Advisor of TEDx DTU, Professor Madhusudan Singh, Registrar DTU, Professor T. Vijay Kumar, Faculty Advisor of TEDx DTU, all the deans and heads present here, faculty members, staff, students, and members of the organizing team. As you all know, DTU holds talks every month by the distinguished speakers who have been renowned academicians, researchers, scientists, industrialists, leaders, policymakers, administrators, thought influencers, and social transformers in their field of expertise. Among this series of talks, we have a vertical of TED Talks, the aim of which is to motivate the students to become an entrepreneur and to motivate the students to continue and excel in their core area of engineering. Today is the first in the series of this TED Talks. Before we begin today's talk, I request the dignitaries on the dais to please proceed and light the symbolic lamp of knowledge and wisdom to seek the blessings of Goddess Saraswati.
तुषार हार धवला या शुभ्रा वस्त्रावृता या वीणा वरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेता पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकरा प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेष जाड्यापना।
Thank you very much. We now extend a warm welcome to the distinguished speaker of the day. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to please welcome Mr. Sanjay Sehgal. Thank you, sir. As we all would agree that any organization is known for its leadership, we are very fortunate to have the dynamic and visionary leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Prateek Sharma. Professor Sharma joined DTU as Vice Chancellor about a year ago, and in this short span of time, he has undertaken a number of initiatives which are taking DTU to greater heights, and today's event is one of those initiatives. Professor Sharma has close to 3 decades of research and teaching experience. He is a member of various professional societies such as National Knowledge Network, constituted by Central Pollution Control Board, to support activities of National Clean Air Program launched by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. Professor Sharma is also a fellow member of Wessex Institute of Great Britain for his outstanding scholarly work in the area of air quality modeling. In 2024, Professor Sharma was awarded the Distinguished Educator Award in Sustainability by Navjyoti India Foundation for exceptional leadership, knowledge, and wisdom in teaching academics and promoting sustainability. I now request Professor Sharma to please address the gathering.
Good afternoon, all of you. So, Mr. Sanjay Sehgal, the speaker of the day, and my distinguished fellow colleagues on the dais and in the audience and the dear students. It's a measure of, it's a real pleasure to have Mr. Sehgal here in our midst. And in fact, we have been trying to start certain, series in which we expose our students and faculty members to people who have actually contributed immensely in their field, and which may be industry or say sports or art and culture. For the simple reason, the idea is when we especially come to an academic institution, especially like a professional institution like DTU, most often it is observed that all of us, the teachers, students, are very much overwhelmed with the kind of work that we are engaged in our respective domains, which are related to our field only. And in the bargain, what happens is that we are not able to devote our time and energies to go beyond our disciplinary boundaries. Therefore, it's very much so. So what should we do to expand the domain of our activities and our knowledge is to go to the library and read, or do something to do with some lecture series on YouTube or something similar that comes through our own initiative. The other alternative which we felt was this, that why not actually invite people who have decades of experience in their respective field and who have excelled through their distinguished services and accomplishments, and share their experiences in their professional or the area in which they have excelled with the students and the faculty members, so that it not even opens up a new domain for all who attend and get exposed to their experience, rich experience, but in return, basically, we through a half an hour talk or 45 minutes of talk, the years of experience that these people bring on table in a very, I would say, in scientific terms, the density of information that is packed or packaged in these talks becomes available to the audience, and basically it gives all of us an opportunity to further add value to our existing knowledge. So this has been the objective, and in this objective we have already started Distinguished Speaker Series, in which we have invited several distinguished speakers in the past, and we started with our own alumnus, Dr. Ravi Grover, who was awarded Padma Shri, and we have also started a podcast titled as NG Tales, in which we have been conducting these podcasts with people who directly or indirectly have been associated with Delhi College of Engineering or DTU in direct capacity or indirect capacity. And in fact, through these podcasts, the idea is to convey to the larger world and to people who are associated with the institution, get to know more about the institution, things which are not known to us. That is the primary objective of, and then this is something, TED Talk, which we wanted to have, because all good institutions across the globe are basically engage and invite people to have these TED Talks, and as a rule, the duration of these TED Talks is not in terms of hours or minutes, is not very huge. It's basically limited to a certain duration, and the idea is that, again, at the the density of information which is communicated through these talks is immense, so that in the shorter duration a larger amount of information and knowledge is basically conveyed to the audience. And that has been the objective of all these TED Talks, which range from entrepreneurship to sports to art and culture, and you name it, and you will find, even from the people from the special forces giving lectures, how their training has been helping them in their new avatar in the corporate world. So in this series only, in fact, I'm very happy to share that again the TED Talk again is being started by the first lecture. The speaker happens to be our own alumnus from the 1988 electronics batch, Mr. Sanjay Sehgal. I'm very happy and delighted to present him to the audience, and it is a matter of, again, great pride and privilege to have him in our midst, and I would request for him to share his experiences, and I'm quite sure all of us will get benefited from his talk. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful words. It's a privilege for me to be introducing Mr. Sanjay Sehgal to you all. We are very delighted to have him with us today for this talk. Mr. Sehgal is an award-winning entrepreneur, chairman and CEO of AMSYS Group, a company with global prominence and bases in US, India and Vietnam. He was featured in the Atlanta magazine's 500 Atlanta's Most Powerful Leaders in 2021. His feature was taken up as cover story of Silicon India magazine. Mr. Sehgal was also interviewed by business magazine Smart CEO. His upbeat, creative approach to business and life has been featured in several newspapers and magazines. Mr. Sehgal has a passion for inspiring audience and has a remarkable ability to empower leaders and transform mindsets from all walks of life. A truly inspiring person and one of the best motivational speakers, Mr. Sehgal has influenced many through his stories on overcoming obstacles, perseverance, and how to deal with life's challenges. Mr. Sehgal's upbeat approach, business experience, and leadership skills have been appreciated by hosts like Ryan Smith and the likes. And above all, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor has already mentioned, he is a DCE alumnus of the 1988 batch of Electronics and Communication Engineering. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjay Sehgal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to our Vice Chancellor, Professor Prateek Sharma ji. Though seeing him, I remembered that he was a junior I ragged, you know. And I'm very proud to be sitting next to him, though I can still claim I am the senior, right? But it is a great feeling to be here with you all. I mean, I can't say that I remember these walls because, you know, we were in that monkey-infested old campus, right? In Kashmiri Gate. That was nowhere close to what we see here. You guys are really, really fortunate to have a beautiful, wonderful campus here. But today, I wanted to talk to you about what I have learned in all these years since I left DCE. I worked here in India for a couple of years before moving on to US. Then I worked there with a company for a few years, and before I started my entrepreneurial journey, and then I have done few startups, and I can surely say that, you know, failures are as much part of an entrepreneurial journey as the success that we all aim to achieve. In fact, one of my favorite quotes or sayings of Winston Churchill, I know he had many other problems in life, but some good things he has said. He said, success is moving from one failure to another failure with equal enthusiasm. And I really feel that you all who are yet to start your journey in the field, professional journey after your education, you can learn a lot from this. Of course, you will hear that failure is a stepping stone to success, failure is this. But I think the important thing is, don't let failures put you down. Remember again, the success is moving from one failure to another failure with equal enthusiasm. Now, talking about the startup mindset, the first gyan or first rule of that is seeing problems as opportunities. Suppose, imagine yourself standing in front of a vending machine. I'm sure you guys have vending machines here. You put some money there and no snack or drink comes down. What is your next reaction? Pat it, shake it, even kick it, right? How many of you have done that? Can I have show of hands? How many of you have patted the vending machine if nothing comes out? How many of you have shaken it or kicked it? Many. More? Yes, quite a few. Now, how many of you have seen that as a problem to be solved? I mean, you can be, there's a problem with that. Now, an entrepreneur, when he sees something like that, he will say, how many machines are there like this in my campus? How many machines are there in Delhi? How many machines are there in India? And how many such machines are there worldwide? So how many such problems are there? Let me design a better machine. And I'm not saying now, by the way, there are much more advanced machines available already. I'm not saying that is the problem you should focus on, but I'm saying any problem. If I know some of you perhaps have seen my social media posts and all. I think I was once few years ago walking down some street near my brother's house, and I saw beautiful villas, but outside the villas in balcony people had those clothes hanging for drying. I said, man, I mean, beautiful villas, their beauty is tarnished by these colorful, I don't want to name the clothes, the various kinds of clothes. Some had those lines also, you know what I mean. I mean, why can't we figure out the way to solve this problem? And of course, don't say dryer, but people don't use dryer for various reasons. But I'm sure there could be a simpler solution than that. Isn't it? You know, to me, that is a definition of true entrepreneur who sees a problem and tries to think about a solution. Can you tell me who was the original entrepreneur in this, if I follow this line of thinking? Newton. How many of you remember the Newton's law? See, apple had fallen many times before Newton saw, right? It has been falling ever since, right? Yet this guy, we needed a guy like him to come up with Newton's principles, Newton's law, isn't it? So that's how entrepreneurs see a problem and they think about a solution, start thinking about a solution. That mindset is the first rule or first requirement to have an entrepreneurial attitude or entrepreneurial mindset in your life. How many of you have heard about Uber? Many of you have heard about Uber, Ola, right? You know how Uber was formed? There were two guys, the founders, now they are known as founders of Uber, Travis Kalanick and I think another name was Garrett. One cold night in Paris, they were trying to hail cabs and cab was not stopping. And these guys were shivering. They all thought, I mean, they could have gotten frustrated, found a bus or some other place or walked or something. But instead they said, man, let's solve this problem. I think, wouldn't it be nice if you could call the cab by just press of a button on your smartphone? And that came Uber. And of course, they started Uber, started slowly, city by city. Today, more than 150 million people use Uber on a daily basis, and how many offshoots of Uber like Ola and many others have come in the world, right? Now that brings me to the second thing in the startup mindset, that is a rejection or the failure. People often think that, oh, I got rejected too many times. You know how many times Uber got rejected? Somewhere I was told that 120 times they made the pitch to investors and they got rejected. People said, why would I trust a stranger to drive me somewhere? I mean, the Uber's model was a car will come, car that you don't know anything about. Somebody will come, pick you up in a car and take you somewhere. They say people will never be driven by a stranger. Somebody said that nobody will pay to get on a random car. And of course, in many cities, even the cab industries or taxi industries were a big mafia, especially in New York and all. I mean, I know more about US, but I'm sure in India it's the same thing. The cab industry, it's not same everywhere. I mean, places like New York, they were like yellow cabs are a big mafia. They said they will never let you operate in those cities. But today we know all those rejections have not been true. They finally, of course, they not only raised money, but they became one of the most successful companies of our times, right? How does an entrepreneur who gets rejections should take it? He should take that as a feedback. And he goes back to the drawing board, iterate, and try again. And that's how, I can share with you from my journey. I have done 4 startups in my life. And would have in all, among all the startups put together, would have raised maybe 150 million or so. But I can tell you, I would have made pitches to close to 500 investors or VCs in my life. And out of those, I have raised all this money from hardly 10 of them. So 500 pitches, only 10 resulted in success. You can see the, but it is not that. It is a one guy who believes in you, one guy who puts money in you, and that's what matters. Like in your life, you may meet many people who can be your life partners, but you need only one, right? And I know at this age, a lot of you think about that, right? So next time, when you feel that, there is a life is a vending machine taking your money away, don't just walk away. But how many of you think like that? What if I tell you, my father or nobody in my family, even now till today, has ever done business. I am first and right now the only entrepreneur in my life, in my family life. It does not matter. I think it depends on you. It is never dependent on your DNA. That's one of the myths people have, that entrepreneurs are born. Of course, if you're born with a silver spoon, if you're Adani, Ambani or Tata, Birla and all that, of course it is, you don't know anything else, right? Like if you're Amir Khan's son, you don't know anything else, you will be an actor, right? Or Shah Rukh Khan's son, I think he's becoming director. Of course, slight change, he becomes a director, right? But that's of course the profession the father is into. But you can always choose to be the first entrepreneur in your family, in your life, in your colony, in your college. It does not matter. What matters is you. And other myths often people have, that you have to really, really work very hard. I have to study a lot. Of course, there is no substitute for hard work. I'm not saying that you don't have to work hard, but hard work alone is not enough. You can be topper in your college, and yet you may not be able to come up with that successful formula for the next startup. You know how many founders that we see of successful companies are dropouts? I'm sure you all know Mark Zuckerberg was a dropout, right? Bill Gates was a dropout, right? In fact, there's a fashion in Silicon Valley of being a dropout or funding dropouts than the people who actually studied. Because it's not just the most successful product, it's also the storytelling that is important. I often advise youngsters like you. Some people tell that, okay, I think maybe I should work few years and then do a company. Some people say do it in the college. I always advise, work for at least 1 or 2 years. Get your feet wet in the industry that you are thinking of solving the problem in before you do the startup. But of course, these days, a lot of colleges like DTU itself has incubation center where you can get the mentorship that you need to come up with a successful company or successful product. But besides the product, besides the hard work, it is that storytelling that you would need. Like this, there is a saying, you can have the best mousetrap, but unless you have a way of telling the entire world about that mousetrap, it is not going to sell. So it is very important, not just a good product, but also your ability to take the product to market. Some mechanism to do that, whether it is through partners, whether it is through another founder, or yourself. And often other myth I have found people ask me about is the right time to start a company. Like some of it I have already shared with you, gained few years of experience. But if you have an urge to do something like this today, don't wait. Because that waiting may kill that urge, may kill that ability that you are developing within yourself. So it will be very important for you to nurture that ability that urge in you today than wait till tomorrow. How many of you have heard about, I'm sure you all have heard about Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, right? They all are very rich. But do you know how many of them were rich when they started the companies? None of them. Most of them were students. So that myth that entrepreneurs are rich is also wrong. That they are coming up with to solve that problem. That is more important than everything else put together. Because money will eventually come. Like, in some of the podcasts I have shared this, that these days, it is such a nice era that you don't even need to depend on only technology to come up with a good startup. You can, have you heard of a company called Samosa King? There is a successful startup in Bangalore called Samosa King. They have come up with a samosa that if it gets delivered even after an hour to your house, it stays crisp. It's a food tech company. Isn't that amazing? We all, imagine idli or meaning kachori. I'm just giving you some random examples, right? You can, this is the time, this is the era. You all live here. Bittu the Tikki. I remember a few years ago, nobody knew that guy was selling on the streets, right? Now it's such a big venture. Don't laugh at it. These are all startup ideas. There was one guy in Bangalore after IIT Bombay. He has come up with vada pav, small vada pav shops. He has come up with a formula of building 100 vada pav shops in Mumbai. And it's going to be one of the big ventures that a lot of people will be going after to invest money in. So open your horizons and you will find that, these days in your house itself, there are thousands of problems that are looking for a solution. And that solution, who knows, can come only from you. Only if you think hard about it. Now, of course, all this sounds great and eventually you'll make a lot of money. But startup world also has its dark side. I'm sure you would have heard recently, one of the founders of some company, I think here in India, he died of heart attack. I forgot the name of the company. Like that, I think, and one founder, I think it was Coffee Cafe Day, he committed suicide. I'm just telling you why these things happen, because startup world is chaotic. It can be stressful. So you do need an anchor. In all this, you need an anchor. You need anchor which can keep you grounded. For me in my life, and that is one thing I'm very happy to share with you, is that I found that anchor early on in my life, much before even I did my first startup, and that was meditation. Heartfulness meditation I was introduced to almost, I would say, 5 years before I started my first startup. And not only it kept me calm, stress-free, resilient through all this, but also it gave me a better decision-making abilities. I'm sure you all know that through stillness of the mind, you can make better decisions. And if a decision is confirmed by your heart, it will always be the best decision in your life. So that's why the heartfulness meditation is some anchor you always need in your life if you are entering a field like that. I will be very happy to answer some of your questions if you have any. Are they allowed, sir? Is that okay? Yeah. Because I can go on and tell you a lot more about things, but I think it is better for me if I say all those things in the context of questions you may have, rather than through the lens that I had viewed things in. Any questions if you have about startup or anything that you think about, I would be very happy to respond to those. Or even meditation.
So how do we navigate the cold start when we do a startup? For example, like if I start a startup, eventually I'll think of the solution and a plan to implement it. But for the first few years, we won't be making money. So how do we stay afloat and have some way to be like stable enough so we can endure on to the later stages?
So at some point in time, I think you would have to take help of either angel investors or an incubation, some help from mentors, like what you can get through an incubation center. That will really help you through that. And of course, almost every city has angel groups, as you know. And I was told earlier by, I think, professors are here who runs your incubation, that even some alumni have formed their own angel group to fund some investors, some startups here at DTU. So there are means of raising money. Keep your burn rate low so that you're of course not burning that away. But some money you would have to raise.
Yes, sir. Because like I saw a podcast with the Zero, the co-founders, along with Vella. He said we need an upwards of 10 crore plus to build a high-scale startup that will ensure growth in like 5 years. So isn't that very capital intensive for something that is an idea? I mean, of course,
I think it depends on what you're doing, right? I think it depends on what you're doing. There are startup ideas, and I think that's a thing. See, then when I started my first company, what is your name?
Sir, Animesh.
Anilesh. When I started my first company, of course, it was in 2001. 2001 I started my first company. I did raise my first round of 10 million, but that era was different. In today's, I think, how industry has progressed is not only that, the better technology, but you can also develop your MVP at much smaller amount of money than was needed in our times, right? And like I'm telling you about this Samosa King or this Vada Pav, I mean, you can have one stall or one something in a very small amount of money, right? And then you can replicate that model, right? You can raise the money. It's a lot easier to raise the money after you have MVP, minimum viable product, than before that. Whereas in our time, we used to raise money even for product development, and product development itself used to cost a lot of millions of dollars in those days. But if you have MVP, you would be able to find investors.
Good evening, sir. Sir, through your years of experience, what are some of the challenges you can tell that any new entrepreneur is bound to face, regardless of the field, and how you can overcome those challenges? Apart from the initial funding, that's so given, but other than that, what are the challenges anyone would face?
See, every startup founder, one of the biggest challenge other than funding, right, or lack of it, you would face is other co-founders. And I think why I'm saying that is, this, startup after startup, you will find that, that the interpersonal relationship between the founding team, they are very, very important. So when investors, even they look at, a startup before funding it, they look at how, at least in our time, and when I was doing it, they used to see how many years you guys have worked together. But now, of course, most of the time, startups get funded, where founders are very young. So they really don't have prior experience of working together. So that's something that you cannot really ensure. But that relationship between founder is one of the most challenging part I would find that any startup founder will face. Besides that, I think, as I said, the daily stresses of how you have to, you have to deal with the delays in things and all that. And that's where I had mentioned to you in my earlier, thing that a good practice or anchor of meditation would be really helpful to you to go through all these challenges, because I think it's not only the decision making that you have to do on a daily basis, but also at the end of the day, it's startup mindset or entrepreneurial mindset is not about managing things outside of you. It is about managing yourself through various challenges that you face. And how well can you manage yourself through this? That's what determines a good founder from not so good founder.
Sir, what do you initially feel like if we start a startup? So cash burn initially should be low, or if we want to capitalize the market in year or two so that the net valuation of the company is high. So in that case, I have seen that cash burn is usually high. So what do you recommend? It should be low initially as well, or it can be high in certain cases like B2C companies?
No, I think, as I said earlier, I think that having MVP, right, and some customers, right, is these days a prerequisite for raising money by anyone. So it's always better to wait. At times, there are different eras that you go through. With my age, I can tell you that I have gone through eras when money is so readily available, people are requesting you to take money, right? In one of my startups, I raised money with just a business idea on a paper napkin. I didn't even have a pitch deck to give to the investors. It was just on a paper napkin. I had an idea and I had some team members with me, and I went to the investor and they said, okay, you can come back with a pitch deck and we'll be ready. Here's a term sheet. But I think that was a mistake I did. I realized that later. I should have waited. Never be in a rush to raise money, because money always will come with some strings attached. And those strings will hurt you later. Now I can tell you, having, as I said, the best thing that you learn is through your failure or mistakes. So that was a mistake I made, and I am going to, based on that mistake, I'll tell you, never be in a rush to raise money. Continue with, as long as you can yourself, or through the help of friends and family, or incubators or mentors, as long as you can yourself, before you go out and raise institutional money. Does it answer your question? Sure.
Sir, in that case, what do you prefer, incubators or accelerators in that case, if we need to, if friends and families are not more supporting at that case? So incubators are better or accelerators are better at that case?
I think both are, incubators are, the term incubation means you come from an ICU and then you're just born and you come into incubator. After incubator, you go into accelerator. Right? I think you have answered your question yourself. Depends on where you are. If you are at a stage where company is yet to be formed, right? Or you don't know how to go about it, then go to an incubator. Right? If you are already formed a company, you have MVP or close to having an MVP, go to accelerator. Accelerator will help you or prepare you to raise money. That is the role of accelerator. Sir, I think, can you hold a microphone? I don't know.
Repeating the same question. What was your motivation or driving force to start the entrepreneurship journey? And secondly, how you assessed your situation after working for 15 years or so? How you took the call that or assess your situation that this is a right stage to start the company?
I hope I have understood your question. See, my motivation when I worked for about 10 years in US, and the company I was working with, that was called American Megatrends, I think we had done a business unit in that company that was almost like a startup. Initially, I was in the product development division of that particular group. Later on, I became part of sales. And that's where I was talking about that it is not just, I mean, it's not good enough for you to develop a good product, but also you should be able to sell that product, right? So I had learned both sides of the business, so I felt I was ready to jump into doing my own things. And often I think about, was money the motivating factor? No, I was making very good money even working there. I mean, in those days I was making about $500,000 a year just working, and I mean, it was in 2000. I mean, it was a lot of money. That is equivalent of perhaps $1.5 million now. And I think it was not money making. It was really that I wanted to have that freedom of doing something on my own. And that was a motivation factor I had at that time. And I think it depends. I mean, these days, see, in early 2000, average age of CEO used to be about 45 in the industry in America. And I was 35 years old at that time. And now today, the average age of CEO is about 25. So if somebody is thinking about starting a company at the age 35, he is already 10 years late. But still, it is never late. The right time is when you are ready. Even now you will find successful companies started by people in their 50s. Nykaa, you may have heard of that company. Those people are kind of, in their 40s or something, right? So I think it is never too late, and now it's a very good time, because it's not just limited to few fields. You can go from samosa all the way to the deep tech, I mean, and everything in between. I mean, every industry right now, including agriculture, is ready for disruption. Where there are problems looking for a solution. Only thing you need is a strong belief that solution can come from you. If you are, I'm guessing, sir, you are part of faculty here, right? So you are in certain field. I mean, let's say you're in agriculture. Department, let's say, hypothetically. Even that industry, I just started doing a lot of sustainability work through our NGO myself, and I see everywhere there are problems looking for solution. We just need a person who has a belief that I can solve that problem.
Hello. Sir, I am also faculty member here. I did my graduation in 1988. At that time also, government was initiating and promoting lot of industrialization. Name was different. But my experience is that those who set up industry, some of them died, but those who became the chamchas of leaders, they become very rich. So we have to see from many perspectives. Means there are successful people also, there are unsuccessful people. But I want to bring another point here. In India, we are lacking on one aspect. In developed country, including the China, the state is behind lot of startup, which we are not able to realize. Like Google, like Tesla, like BYD. Lot of funding was from the state, means because state has power to create currency, so they have infinite backup. Our country, the startup is not having that kind of backup. For the kind of startup and imagination we must have a proper backup. Because if there is not a proper backup, then there is a high possibility of dying out. As we all know that how much percentage of startup getting died up. So just I want to bring this aspect that if we are policy maker, if we get opportunity to tell to the policy maker that we should take more initiative to support the startup. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think things are happening in India too, sir, with all due respect to you. I agree with you. You're 1988 pass out, you say, right? And graduate. I think I remember those days, and I think it was all, when you talk about industries, we never used to have the word startup in India. It was industry. Industry means पैसा खिला के जमीन लो किसी से और उसके ऊपर कुछ फैक्ट्री बनाओ, लोन लेने के लिए भी आपको पैसा देना पड़ता है, right? But everywhere you have to do all this through the chain. That was not our cup of tea, right? People coming from middle class background, lower middle class background, we never thought about it. But now, sir, times are changing. I'll tell you, out of all these students who are sitting here, if I were to ask, how many of you would like, hello, can I get your attention? Phone बाद में देख लेना यार, घर में भी phone है. So, how many of you would like to start your own venture if you are given an opportunity? Sir, that was not the case in our and mine and your time. Even I never thought I would do this. Times are changing. This phone, of course, we don't like it. People looking at it all the time. But this has made the world flat, or bigger, more than flat. Now everybody has the same information. They know once a BYD comes up with new thing in China, they also know it. Now it is for people like me and you. Forget government. Government is doing what they can do. Policies, yes, it is happening. But I think it is also the responsibility of our generation to give them encouragement, to give them backing. There was a DTU batch which came to our, I have come here from Hyderabad, and my house is part of a big campus that is called Kana Shanti Vannam. That is the headquarter of Heartfulness Meditation. I mentioned earlier that I practice, and I live between that place and Atlanta. And there was a group of 100 students or so had come there, and I had mentioned there that out of that group, if anybody does the first company, I will invest $100,000 myself. And I'll make the same comment here to people here, including that person who's watching his phone all the time, but I will, if you do the company, I will invest. I think, sir, I think ये हमारे ऊपर है, ये लोग कैसे आएंगे. अगर अभी भी हम गवर्नमेंट के पीछे छोड़ देंगे ना, कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. I think there have been many successful companies already have come to forefront, and there are many more in the pipeline. So I would say that to all of you, you guys be the creators. See, they say the future is not something that is found. You say, I found the future. No, you never say that. Future is something that is built. Future is built provided you have that belief in you. So it's up to you. Are you guys ready? How many of you want to start the companies next opportunity you get? I want to see everybody raising your hands. अरे आप भी कर दीजिए सर. Okay. देखिए, this country is ours, this era is ours, and this college is ours, right? Let's utilize all these things and create a future that is also ours, right? Thank you.
Sir, may I have one more question?
Okay. कहाँ से आ रहा है? अच्छा, sorry, yeah. Okay, please.
Sir, in this fast moving world, idea comes in the mind of a student or me or anybody, and if it takes some time in getting the results or implementing it, the idea expires and some other people will grab that idea and other people will develop his own thing. So in this fast moving world, if idea comes and we don't get suitable person for the investment, or we don't get opportunities to materialize the idea, then efforts is waste. So please suggest us what students or we even can do. Idea comes and no support, it is getting some time. In that time, how can I make alive the idea to get it implemented in future? Thank you, sir.
Sir, that is true with every idea, that you are not, like they say that, wisdom or stupidity has no age boundary, no geographical boundary. I mean, people across the world may get the same idea more or less at the same time. It happens all the time, right? I think that is part of developing a startup. that you get an idea, you come up with a solution, and then you do market research to see if such an idea exists already or not, or what if a better idea exists already or not. So there is a time period you have to devote in your startup journey for doing market research. Only after that you will be able to convince yourself that this is a good idea, or convince others to put money in you that it's a good idea for you to take it to market. That is part of the startup, developing a startup. It's not that I go home, think about an idea, now I want funding. No. There is a period that you have to develop a product, minimum viable product. You have to do market research. You have to see that how your product is better than others. It is not for, at the same time, I mean, though I kind of wanted to get everybody inspired, excited about startup, but at the same time I'll tell you, startups are not for faint-hearted. It does require a lot of patience, perseverance on your part to be able to figure out that no competing idea exists in the market already. It's part of the journey, sir. I think you had, somebody else had a question? Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I am an alumni of DTU, passed out in 2017. Right now, my startup is in MBB stage and also included at DTU. I'm looking for initial investment and mentorship from you. So how can he connect with you?
Sanjay Sehgal is my name. I'm very active on social media. You send me on LinkedIn, right? Okay. What is your name?
Ramesh Gupta.
Ramesh Gupta. Okay.
Okay.
I'll wait for your message. Okay.
Myself, Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary from Mechanical Engineering Department. There are two parts of my question. First one, as per my understanding, there are two parts of this theme. One is about the understanding of the viable product, and second one to fitting it in a business framework. So for some people, it might be, they might be good in one part. Some would be good in another part. It will be just coincident that both parts will be good for a person. So if one person is having one part, is not having another part, so it will die out. Same for other thing. Okay, so how do you see both things can be taken in hand to hand with the same person? And second part, in continuation of the previous question, on a lighter note, how do you place political skill and ability in this framework?
Okay. So sir, first part is, that's why a lot of successful startup these days have more than one founder. You know, there is a reason behind it, and that makes sense now. I also, when I did, though my current company that I have, it's not a startup anymore, but current company is owned by me. I don't have any investment either, but the startups, venture funded startups, when I did, I always had more than, in fact, more than, in some cases, more than two founders. Because you do need people with different skills coming together to ensure that there is a success assured, and success to yourself and success to the investors who are going to be putting their money in, and that's very essential. And I think and that's, I hope that answers your question, because I think, like for example, one of my startups which did fairly well, I think we did have, I used to manage the sales and marketing part, and I didn't know, I didn't come from security, so I didn't, I didn't know that it was in information security space. I didn't have the skill in that, so I kind of joined hands with a person who was founder of another company in information security, and we did things together. And second, I think how political and all that, so I think I would say it's like, जब बच्चा भी चलता है, अगर वो सोचता रहे कि मुझे ये टेबल अटक जाएगा, ये अटक जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, वो कभी चल नहीं पाएगा, right? You have to somehow go past all these things which you think may block you, your mind or your startup or your idea. You have to think past those to be able to move faster. Then you are moving so fast that your velocity will ensure that none of those things may block you. I mean, I'm not saying these things don't happen, it happens. You know, every other movie that made in India shows that koi political party ka leader aake tumko maar raha hai karke. I mean, come on. I mean, you know, we know, I think people who have created successful companies, have they not faced those things? They have faced those things too. But your velocity has to be so high that you can go past those things without any problem. So I'm told other questions we'll take later on. But thanks a lot to all of you. As I said, go build, go create. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such an encouraging talk. It was a pleasure to hear you. As a token of our gratitude, we would like to present a memento to Mr. Sanjay Sehgal. I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to please do the honors. Thank you, sir. I would now like to introduce Professor S. Indu, who is the faculty advisor of TEDx DTU. Professor Indu is a professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. She has been associated with DTU for the past 20 years. Professor Indu has held various academic and administrative positions at DTU, and I feel privileged to invite ma'am to deliver a vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. Distinguished speaker of this day, Sri Sanjay Sehgal, Chairman and CEO of MSys Technologies and award-winning entrepreneur and our own Alumnus 1988, Honorable Vice Chancellor DTU, Professor Pradeep Sharma, Registrar DTU, Professor Madhusudan Singh, Co-Faculty Advisor of TEDx DTU, Professor Vijay Kumar, Deans, Head of the Departments, esteemed faculty members, and my dear students. It's my proud privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of Delhi Technological University after this enlightening talk. First and foremost, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Sri Sanjay Sehgal, our distinguished speaker of the day, for taking his valuable time to share such valuable insights with us. Your expertise and depth of knowledge on starting a startup, maintaining it, and taking it to the next higher level has motivated and inspired all of us. We are deeply appreciative of your effort in preparing for giving such a compelling talk here. I also wish to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for his support, guidance, and contributions in taking such initiatives and making it a success. He is working 24/7 for taking DTU to further heights. Within a short span of time, he started MTech by research and many research initiatives in the field of energy and sustainability, AI, etc. And thank you very much, sir, for all your support. I am thankful to our registrar for his support in all activities of the university. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of our committee members, Professor T. Vijay Kumar, Dr. Loveleen Gupta, Dr. Yashna, Dr. Akansha Kaushik, Dr. Rohan Pillai, Dr. Sumit Kale, Dr. Garima, Dr. Kavinder, and Dr. Inder Kumar Chaudhary, who have ensured everything in place and made this event a success. I am thankful to my student team, TEDx DTU, led by Karthik and Spruha. This activity is organized as per the guidelines of TEDx. Also, I am thankful to Chandan and his team for his support in spreading awareness of this activity. I wish to thank all my student volunteers for their hard work and dedication behind the scenes for making this event a success. I would also like to thank the team from Engineering Cell for all their support and making this event a success. A special thanks to our attendees, both in person as well as in offline, for your participation and engagement. Your presence and thoughtful questions have added great value to this event. making it more interactive and enriching experience. Lastly, thank you once again to our distinguished speaker, Sri Sanjay Sehgal, for sharing your time and wisdom with us. We look forward to more opportunity to engage with you future. Let us continue to reflect on today's discussions and apply the insights we have gained in our respective fields. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. High tea is arranged outside the venue. So, but please wait here. Please remain seated while the dignitaries leave the hall. High tea is arranged for students outside the Audi, and for faculty members, it's backstage. So please join us for high tea.